It's the grandson of Right Thought. Welcome to the School of Marvelous Light, Little Flock. It's a little after midnight in my neck of the woods. So by the time this video uploads, I'm sure a lot of y'all, if y'all are in my neighborhood, it'd be probably sleeping. Well, wherever you are, wake up, stretch, open your eyes, because we got some food. A brother, member of the Little Flock, named Jacob, he asked, could I do a message concerning Genesis chapter 12? So if you all would open your Bibles to the book of Genesis, chapter 12, we'll start reading there. It's going to be quite a bit of reading because we're going to read the entire chapter since that's what he asked us to do. We're going to read the entire chapter and we're going to break down what this chapter means. And in doing so, we're going to get some insight, of course, as we always do, from the other scriptures. Because here a little, there a little, line upon line, precept upon precept. Y'all know how it go. Y'all see little flockulators? So the book of Genesis, chapter 12. Now had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will shew thee. Stop, little flockulators, like we always do. We like to abide by the traffic laws. So we stop. First of all, let's understand what Abram means. Like I always tell you guys, little flockulators. Abram means exalted father. You see that, little flockulators? Exalted father. Exalted means lifted up, on high, higher than the others. You see that, little flock? Now remember what we've been saying about Zion, how Abba elevated Zion above all the other mountains. It is the highest peak of consciousness one can rise to. In order to reach that peak, you're going to encounter a stone on the way. To reach that peak, you're going to come upon a stone. You see that? It's called the rock of offense. You see it? And it's called the rock of offense for a reason, because it offends many. You see it? Even though it is an immovable rock, it offends many. And we talked on our last lesson about what that rock was. But we're going to get into it more here, little flock. So, exalted father, Abram, get thee out of thy country. So, come away from the mainstream ideologies of the people you live around. So it is with any of the other called out ones. If you are called out, then that means that you are separated from the mainstream place you've been living in. And it means mentally, psychologically, the way you think, you see, because a man cannot change if he does not change the way he thinks first. So you must be changed in the way that you think so that you can enter a different country than what you had been in. In other words, a different state. So if you're sick, it is because you have sick thoughts, which created sick feelings. And those sick feelings created the experience that you're having. You see what I mean? So if you want to have a different experience, which is I am healthy, what do you must do first? You must come away from the old thoughts that created that circumstance that you're in. The old way of thinking, the old way of being, the old way of feeling. You see? So in this case, it says country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house. You see that? The same with you. What did Yahushua say he came to do? To bring peace on earth, or to bring a sword, and a sword of division, to separate fathers from the sons, mothers from the daughters? Do you see? Why is it those things, little flock? Why would you say it's those things? Because of what we're reading here. If your kin, your country, your household, and everybody have an ideology and they all agree, let's just say it's something like Christmas, and they've all come up keeping Christmas, and then when you come, he snatches you away, Abba does, and is going to give you a new country. Well, then in the new country, they don't keep Christmas. So when he snatches you away, you stop keeping the old ways. In other words, the old idolatry. That's what Abraham did when he took that hatchet and smashed his father's idols. You see how it's saying here, come away from your father's house, your kindred, and your country. Old ideologies, old traditions. You see it? And I will make thee a great nation. You see? And I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. You see it there, little flock? And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. In who? In the exalted Father. All the nations of the earth are going to be blessed. You see, in that highest state of consciousness. Once everybody comes up to Mount Zion, as the scripture says they will, once they come up there and receive the higher elevated words from Father, you see that there? Then they will be blessed. And it was all from where it started, you see, which is where we're reading here. And I will bless them that bless thee, curse them that curse thee, all the families of the earth be blessed. Verse 4, so Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. What does Lot mean? Lot means covering or envelop, to be covered over, you see. So the exalted Father took a covering with him, covering or to be enveloped, you see. A covering, a protection, a cloak, if you will, to cover you. What was that? Well, who was Lot to Abram? We're going to get into it. And Lot went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Now, what does Haran mean? Haran means crossroad. So do you see it, little flock, starting to become clear what's going on here? When you're called out of the world, you have a choice to make, to either go back to the old traditions, back to your old family, back to your old ideologies, back to the old vain things that you learned growing up, or to take the other path, and which is that rock that I told you about. It's the same thing. We're going to get into what that rock is, or in other words, what that path is. Because the one path that your parents and your old family is called sight. That's the wide path that many go therein because they believe they can see that it looks safe to them. You see, that's the trick bag. Since Abba doesn't judge by sight, then he punishes those who could just continue to do it. That's the way it goes. You see it? You have to be translated into a better country in order to understand the better things. You can't stand the old, you see? So Haran represents a crossroads. See you at the crossroads, you won't be lonely. See you at the crossroads. Y'all remember that song? That's what Haran means, crossroad, a choice to be made. So you see, Abram departed from there and he took Lot. Now, I remember I told you guys, Lot is related to Abram. He is Abram's nephew. So this means that Lot is Abram's brother's son. You see it there, little flock of laters. There's a reason why I'm stressing that. We're going to continue. Verse 5. And Abram took Sarai, his wife. Sarai. What does Sarai mean? It means barren mountain. Hear that, good little flock of laters. Barren mountain. Okay? Keep that in mind. So the exalted Father took barren mountain, his wife, and Lot, or covering, his brother's son. See what I was telling to you there, little flock of laters? His brother's son he took with him. Because why? So I want to see if you guys understand why. Because he represents brotherly love. That is the covering that a man takes when he leaves the old world that he was pulled out of. Can y'all hear this today, little flock, or what? Can you hear it? Now, you guys know that what I'm telling you today is coming from a pure place. And how do you know that? Because I had no plan on speaking about Genesis 12 today. You see? My brother asked me to, and so I am, but I had no plan on it. So that means that the things that I'm telling you all today are pure. But do you see how astounding they are? Do you see it? And how it's hidden all in the meaning of these words? Like barren mountain. Why is Sarai mean barren mountain? And why is she the wife of the exalted father? We're going to reveal why. See how that's working, little flockulators? We're revealing why he took Lot, because Lot is the covering, which represents brotherly love. When a man comes out the old world, he takes brotherly love as his covering of protection. He stays in that ark and it covers him. That's why I told you guys to come into that ark. Many people don't know that it is the ark. Well, I keep on saying and screaming and hollering that it is. So you can either believe or you cannot believe. But I'll tell you right now, you can't listen to this message and then think that I'm not who I say I am. Continuing. So Exalted Father took barren mountain, his wife, and the covering, his brother's son, which means brotherly love, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls, see there, that they had gotten at the crossroads. See? So other people that were at the crossroads who were called out and called to make a different way of walking in life. Now, you guys know that there are two. One is sight. So what do you think the other one is? It's that same rock I keep telling you guys about that we're going to get into a little bit more in depth as we continue this message. Okay? So now, they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. Now, what does Canaan mean? See how we're doing this, little flock? Canaan means merchants. Can you hear this, little flockulators, or what? So now, you live in a world full of merchants. Read Revelation. It will tell you that there are many merchants that have made a whole lot of money. And when the world end and their money fail, they're going to scream. Who are? The merchants are. The Canaan are. You see that? Now, pay attention. Merchants. You see that? Now, what did I tell you Cain or Cain name mean? It means to get or acquire. Now, look at the meaning of Canaan. Merchants. What do merchants do? They buy and sell. So they have the mark of Cain. Canaan do. See how that's going there, little flockulators? You see it? So now Abram is going into that land, that place of merchants. You see it? And into the land of Canaan they came. Verse 6. An exalted father passed through the land unto the place of Sichem, unto the plain of Moreh. You see that there? Plain. I told you guys what plain means. It means a flat, even place. In other words, a place of fairness and equity. You see it? So he went among the land of the merchants and he dwelt equally and fairly among them. That's what it means. Because that's the truth of brotherly love. It's fairness and no iniquity. What does Yahushua say? Depart from me, you what? You that work iniquity. Merchants like to work iniquity. In other words, they like to sell you something not of very much high value, but sell it to you as if it is, and you give them a lot of value for something that's not. That's called iniquity. When they put something that they say it weighs a certain amount, but they have a scale that's rigged, so it's showing a different amount than it actually is, but you pay for the full amount, that's iniquity. See it there, little flock? Merchants do that kind of stuff. See, Canaan do that kind of stuff. You see it, little flockulators. But it says Abraham came in a plain, you see, which means an even place of equity when he dealt with people. Of Moreh. Moreh means teacher. Do you see it there, little flock? Okay. And the Canaanite was then in the land. The merchants were then in the land. See it? And I am appeared unto exalted Father and said, unto your seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto I am, who appeared unto him. And he removed from thence unto a mountain, high level of consciousness, you see, on the east of Bethel, house of God. See that there, little flockulators? And pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east. And there he builded an altar unto I am, and called upon the name of I am. Now, you can't do this thing, this rock that I'm describing to you, without using the Father's name before it happens. Oh, man. Okay. When it says he called upon the name of I am, that means that when Abba tells Abram something, he believes the thing as though it is actually happening right then. Do you know what that's called? That activity? It's called faith. You see it there, little flock of laters? You must hear it, because we're going to explain why you must hear that. When Abba told Abram something, he believed it as though it was right then. Not that it would happen in the future, not that it may happen, that it did happen. He rejoiced. Abraham saw my day and rejoiced and was glad. You are not even 50 years old yet, and you said Abraham saw your day and rejoiced in it. Before Abraham was, I am, and they took up stones to stone him. See what I mean, little flock? The two worlds having enmity can't get along because they're not the same. You see it? So they can't hear what Yahushua is saying there. You see? But continuing. All right. Verse 9. And exalted father Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. You see? And there was a famine in the land. So now, this thing's about to get interesting here, little flock. So there's a famine in the land. What kind of famine did Abba say would be in the land? Not of food and of water and of drink, but of hearing the words of I am. You see it? The words of love. That's the famine that people are going to experience. So since we're speaking of spiritual things here, then it's no different. You see, there was a famine in the land. You see it? Lack of wisdom, lack of understanding, lack of truth. That's a famine. You see it? And Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. You see that there, little flock? Now, what does Egypt represent? Egypt represents hard labor, hard work. You see it today. Work of the hands is what Egypt represents. They're very fascinated with mathematics and science and what the work of their hands is able to accomplish. You need to understand that, little flock. All right? That's what they're interested in. And it came to pass when he was come near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, Behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Y'all hear that there, little flockulators? So my wife, I know she beautiful and look good. In other words, I know that she is desirable. Okay? Hear that, little flock? I know that my wife is desirable. Okay? In other words, I know that what I have is sought after. The wisdom, the knowledge, the word. See? I know it's very valuable and highly sought after. Who can find a virtuous wife like I got? Barren Mountain here. See there, little flock? I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Fair woman. You notice fair means beautiful. But fair is also beautiful to the Father, isn't it? Look how that goes, little flock. Abba, what does Abba think is beautiful? Fairness between brothers. Not iniquity, but fairness. That's beautiful. Brotherly love is. Abba said it's so beautiful, it's like the anointing oil that came down on Aaron's head, down to his beard, dropped down on the skirts of his garment. That is how brothers look when they're in harmony and union one with another. That's how beautiful it is. See how it says fair? See? You're fair to look upon. See? Therefore it shall come to pass when the Egyptians shall see thee. So when the Egyptians, people who desire science, wisdom, knowledge, earthly wisdom in gain of the earthly thing, see? Sciences, mathematics, earthly wisdom, you see? Now, how do we know that? That's what they seek for. That's what they do. Well, When Moses was going back and forth with the magicians, he threw his staff on the ground and it became a serpent, right, little flock? And then what did the Egyptians do? They threw theirs down and it became serpents as well. Now we know that Moses' serpent ate theirs up. But the point is that when they threw it down, it became snakes too. And I told you that that represented wisdom. Moses' wisdom swallowed up theirs. But it doesn't mean that they didn't have some, as you can see. So like I said, it's the same thing going on here. The Egyptians love to have wisdom. They consider themselves to be enlightened people. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? So they're going to covet the wisdom that Abraham has attained. They're going to covet it. But there's a stumbling stone there that's going to trip those guys. It's going to trip everybody if you're not the husband. See what I'm saying there, little flockulators? You have to be to whose it belongs. You see? And we're going to continue and find out just that thing right there. So it says, it came to pass when he was come near into Egypt that he said unto Sarai his wife, behold, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, this is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. You see it? Doesn't that happen in the world all the time? Someone sees somebody that has some type of talent or some skill or some gift, and they steal it from them, and then they kill them to hide the fact that it came from them. I'm the one that came up with this. Yes. You see it, little flock? Do you see it? Continuing. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister. Y'all need to read the Song of Solomon because he says the same thing. You are my beloved. You are my undefiled. You are my dove. You are my sister. He says the exact same things about wisdom. Oops, I gave it away. Wisdom, you see, who is the mother of us all, which we're going to get into that too. All right. Okay, say I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. Okay. And it came to pass that when exalted father Abraham was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair, his wisdom. You see, that it was very good and pleasant. You see it? The wisdom. And the princes also, and the Egyptians beheld the woman that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commended her before Pharaoh. See, the wisdom. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. That wisdom, see? And he entreated Abraham to his body and to his mind. You see it? And he entreated Abraham well for her sake. You see? Thank you, Abraham, for teaching me this. Thank you for dropping these jewels on me. Thank you for giving me all these diamonds of gold I didn't know anything about. Wow, this is a beautiful place to be with this beautiful woman. Do y'all understand what I'm actually saying to you? Okay. So he says, and he treated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep and oxen and asses and men servants and maid servants and she asses and camels. He had physical riches. Abraham had spiritual riches as well as physical, just like Solomon did, because wisdom bears riches in her left hand when she comes. You see that there, little flock? Watch this. And I am plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, because of barren mountain, Abraham's wife. See that there, little flockulators? So wisdom's husband is what? Faith. Okay, we're going to get into it later, and it's going to become so crystal clear why I just said that. You're going to be like, wow, I totally get it now. All right, so we're going to continue. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, what is this that thou hast done unto me? Like you tricked me. I'm getting wrecked trying this wisdom that you told me. It ain't working for me. Why ain't it working for me? See? Why didst thou not tell me that she is thy wife? How come you didn't tell me that it won't work for me? It only worked for you. It's yours. You see? I told you why already, but we're going to get into it. Why saidst thou, she is my sister, so I might have taken her to me to wife? Now, therefore, behold your wife. Take her and go your way. I can't do anything with her. She doesn't belong to me. You see, what does that mean? Christ is foolishness to the carnal mind. The carnal mind cannot accept spiritual things. A old wineskin will burst if it's poured new wine into it. It all means the same damn thing. If you try to bring children out of that mountain, you will fail if you don't have this certain ingredient that fertilizes her waters, or in other words, quickens her womb. She is only barren because her womb must be quickened in order for her to bear children. So if you don't have the quickening spirit or key that unlocks that door, then you ain't opening nothing. You ain't getting nothing but curses. You ain't getting nothing but plagues. You ain't getting nothing but failure. Do you understand that? And we're going to explain why that is, okay? As we continue going through these scriptures. All right. And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away and his wife and all that he had. Do you see it, little flockulators? Do you see that? So now, as we stated, why couldn't this Egyptian take her as his wife? Well, because she belonged to Abraham. So what does that mean? Like I explained to you earlier, we're going to get into it. Now, let's go to book of Hebrews first, chapter 11. We're going to start at verse 6. We'll read verse 6. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. But without faith, see that there, little flock. So in other words, Sarah standing there. Without faith, it is impossible to please her. In other words, to bring children out of her. You see it? But without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to El must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So it's the same thing with the barren mountain. He will only reward those who diligently seek her. Who can find, it says, a virtuous woman? Well, only the faithful man will, because that's the key that fecundates the waters, that fertilizes her womb, that quickens it, is the faith. You see it? Because it is impossible to do it without it. So what did the Egyptian have? Faith, or by the works of their own hands they thought themselves to be wise? What do you guys think it was? So then why couldn't he make Sarai his wife? Because he's faithless, which makes him perverse. So Abba ain't going to let you lay with her if your ass is perverted and faithless. Now, let's just continue reading and let's see if we can compound that with any scriptures here. But without faith, it is impossible to please him. That's Hebrews chapter 11. Y'all hear that there? All right, let's go to Romans chapter 14. Let's keep knocking the whack-a-moles over their head until they get it. And if they don't get it, oh well, they'll just be DEAD. Romans chapter 14, verse 22. Hast thou faith? In other words, do you have faith? Have it to thyself before love, before El. Happy is he that condemneth not himself in that thing which he alloweth. And he that doubteth, which is the opposite of faith, like I broke down to you guys when I talked about Peter. Peter is faith. That's why his name was changed to Peter from Simon. Peter means rock. That's the rock that people stumble over when they try to have children with that woman. They can't have children with Sarah because she's a free woman. So you must approach her as the free man does. Free men don't judge by sight. They walk by faith. That's what makes them free, because they know the truth concerning the circumstance. That's the only man she wants. That's the only man she will lay with and give children to. Otherwise, she will just stay a barren mountain. Do y'all hear this today or what? So he is doubted. He that doubteth, is damned if he eat, because he eateth not of faith. For whatsoever is not of faith is what, little flock? So people that say sin is transgression of the law, okay, but also not having faith is sin. Skeet deedly, can you understand me? Can you? All right. Matthew chapter 17, continuing, verse 17. Let's see what Yahusha has to say concerning faith. Let's just see real quick. Then Yahusha answered and said, O faithless and what? Little flock collators and perverse generation. How long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him hither to me. So what did Yahusha say? Oh, faithless and perverse. He put those two words together for a reason. I told you, will God allow a pervert to lay with the barren mountain and produce children? No, he will not. That's why Egypt suffered plagues, because y'all are faithless and perverse. And anybody who is faithless and perverse, if they stretch their hand to try to lift up the skirt of Zion, will receive plagues and probably will end up dead. Do you hear it today? Continuing. Let's go to the book of Isaiah. All right. Well, let's see. What do we want before that? Let's go to Galatians before we go to Isaiah. Let's go to Galatians chapter 4. All right. Watch this, how we're going to break this down and make it so clear what we just did what we were talking about in generations. Genesis 12. Okay. Genesis 12. So back to Galatians chapter 4. Verse 22. For it is written that Abraham, the man we were just reading about, had two sons. Did he not, little flockulators? What's their names? One named Isaac, one named Ishmael. Now let's continue and listen to this. The one by a bondmaid. Which one was the bondmaid's child? Ishmael is the child of the bondmaid, see? And the other by a free woman. See their little flockulators? That free woman's name is what? Well, her name was changed to Sarah. But what was it when we were reading in Genesis generation? God, why I keep saying that? Genesis 12. Why? Because it means barren mountain. Now, the question is, was she barren? Yes, she was. That's why they are known for their faith in believing the promise that Abba had told them. See? Watch this. But he who was born of the bondwoman, that would be Ishmael, was born after the flesh. Do you hear it today, little flock? That means the work of your own hands to produce the promise you were looking for. If you work with your own hands, it will fail, and it will cause you great distress when it fails. Let's see if that's what happened to Abraham. You gotta go. Hagar, you and the child Ishmael, y'all gotta go. Sarah said that. And it greatly distressed Abraham. What did I just tell you? See what I'm saying to you? Now watch this. But he of the free woman was by promise. See that, little flock? Which things are an allegory. Allegory means an illustrative story to tell you something that has a higher meaning to it. So it is with this story that we're reading here. See, little flock? I'm giving you the higher meaning of it. See? I could just read it and just tell you it just straight what it says there. But it's an allegory that tells a higher principle. I'm telling you what the higher principle is. Once you're converted out of your old life, old dogmas, your things your father taught you and the traditions that you grew up in, once you're pulled out of it, you're at a crossroads where you have to make a decision, which is to continue to walk by sight, which is the blue pill, or to walk by faith now, which is the red pill. And you're going to be nervous to walk by faith because you don't have any evidence of anything that you've been promised. You're old, your body is old, your wife's body is old, so it looks impossible. You see it? It looked like it can't physically happen. Okay. Now continuing. Which things are an allegory, for these are the two covenants. Do you hear it? These are the two covenants. Let's see. The one from Mount Sinai. So what law did they receive at Sinai, guys? Don't try to twiddle your thumbs, back out, get back in the bushes like Homer Simpson or whoever that nigga was that went back in the bushes trying to hide. Don't do that now. I want you guys to tell me what was the law that they received at Sinai. Can you guys riddle a few off for me so I can hear you good, nice and loud and clear? Thou shalt not, what did they hear at Sinai? What else did they hear? All right. One from Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage. What did I tell you, little flock? You are slaves to sin, Yahusha said. Slaves to sin. So they were slaves to error in their thinking. They thought what they did was right, but they were actually wrong. And that wrongness made them slaves to working to try to please God with their hands. You can't do that. You can't enter in and have no children if you do that. See what I'm trying to say to you, little flockulators? See, because that's not faith. See? Watch this. Continuing. Which gendereth to bondage, which is Hagar. See? Hagar is Mount Sinai that gendereth to bondage. She is the first covenant. See? See it? So now, if you're under the first covenant, then you are a child of bondage. And you are Hagar's child. You're not child of the free woman, which is the second covenant. See what I mean? See? Let's continue and find out if that's true. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth means this is the reason why Jerusalem, which now is in his bondage with her children. So the Jerusalem, in other words, what he's saying is the Jerusalem that you see that is in bondage, and at that time it was Roman captivity, and it has been Babylon and everybody else, but at that time it was Roman. Remember what Yahushua said? Whose inscription is on that money? Caesar's is. So it tells you who run in the world. You see that, little flock? So then if they were living in Rome under Roman rule, then what does that mean? Jerusalem was in bondage. Why? Because they were under the first covenant. And they broke it. That's why, okay, little flockulators. Now, so what happened? Let's continue and read and see. She is in bondage with her children, see? But Jerusalem, which is above, okay, that Zion, that's what Jerusalem above means. Zion, you see, is free. The free woman, who is Sarah, right? Which is the mother of us all. So if Sarah is our mother, then are we under the first covenant? You see why Abraham was called out. And it was at a crossroads and had a choice to make. And those who were at the crossroads, some of those souls came with Abraham and followed him, just like Moses. It's no different. You see it today, little flock. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. You see that? For it is written, listen, rejoice thou barren. Oh, what did I tell you her name means? Barren mountain. See? So rejoice. Why? She's been childless and childless and childless for years and years and years, never having a child. Why rejoice? Well, let's see why. Rejoice, thou barren that bearest not. Break forth and cry, you that travailest not. For the desolate hath many more children than she with hath an husband. See that there? 28. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was. Now we, brothers, as Isaac was, are the children of promise. See that? Now, when someone makes you a promise, you wait with an expectation, which we call hope. Well, what is faith? It is the substance of the hope. Substance means stuff that makes your hope up. Hope is a very high, elevated feeling. Well, you can't get there without faith. Faith is the substance of what you hope for, even though there's no evidence seen. See it there, little flock? Watch this. Watch. But as then, just like when Isaac was around, he that was born after the flesh, which is Ishmael, or the first covenant, those who are under the first covenant, watch this. What do? They persecuted him that was born after the spirit. Even so it is now. Why do you think the grandson of right thought is preaching the things that he's been preaching to you all? Why? I just told you why. Because the old covenant keepers persecute those who are born of the Spirit. It just told you that, didn't it? It didn't say it was the other way around. See? It didn't say that. Watch this. Nevertheless, what says the scripture? He says, even though that's going on, what does the scripture say about it? Cast out the bondwoman and her son. Cast out the old covenant and those who keep it. Oh my goodness. Isn't that what that means? And her slave children. Cast the slave woman and the slave children out. The slave woman is the old covenant because she gendereth to bondage. She makes slave children when they come in, when they're birthed from her. Oh my God, you guys can't see it or something? Let's continue. All right. Cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with the son of the free woman. See? So those who are born of the Spirit will inherit something, but those who are not born of the Spirit will not inherit the same thing that they do. How could they if they're not thinking and feeling the same thing? You see, little flock? You see it? So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, but of the free. Could he have made that any more clearer or not? Could he have? Now, let's get a little bit more context about Sarah and her state of pregnancy, whether she could become or not. Let's get it. Genesis 11, chapter 30. We'll get there real quick. Genesis 11, chapter 30. And it says, but Sarai was barren, and she had no child. Don't you see that, little flock? Genesis chapter 25, verse 21. And Isaac entreated for his wife, because she was barren. And was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. So the same thing that happened with Abraham's wife also happened with Isaac's wife. Also happened with the grandson's wife, Rachel, who was also barren. Can you hear it today or what? Why? Because the woman who is barren always bears the elect child. Let's check and see if that's actually true. Sarah had Isaac. In Isaac shall thy seed be called. He is the elect one. Okay. So then he has two sons, Esau and Jacob. Jacob is elected. He is chosen. Esau is rejected. The Bible makes that clear over and over and over again. But we see that we just read that Rebekah was barren. So she had the grandson. See their little flock? Now, when the grandson comes onto the scene, he desires a woman named Rachel, who is fair to look upon, like it said about Sarah, who's fair to look upon, and he loved her, and he worked and labored for her for years. But she was barren and couldn't have any children. But she is the one who bore who? Joseph, the man with the coat of many colors who saved them during the famine. I'm running out of air because I can't keep up with the Ruach HaKodesh because it's just blasting so fast. You got to be Speedy Gonzalez to keep up with it. Can you hear it today, little flock? Can you hear it? If you're wise, you can. If you're a Dumbo, you just can't. And that's just the way it is. You see? Genesis 29:31. I know I'm jumping through it fast, y'all, but I'm giving it to you so that you know it's there. And when Abba saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. So it said that about Sarah, Rebekah, and Rachel, and they all bore the elect child. And you guys are telling me that ain't all connected? How come they were barren? Well, what did it say? He entreated for his wife. That means he faithfully sought it. That's what it means. You see? He didn't seek it by any works. What did Jacob do? Rachel said, give me children or else I'll die. And Jacob said, am I in God's stead? See what I'm trying to tell you guys, little flock? Abba will do it. You see? All right. Psalm 113, verse 9. Let's go there real quick. Psalm 113, verse 9. I know I told you I got y'all flipping, or clicking, determining by what device you're using or a book you're using. Psalm 113:9. He maketh the barren woman to keep house and to be a joyful mother of children. Praise you, I am. See that there, little flockulators? So you see how that's hidden through the scriptures here and there, a little bit there, a little bit there, here a little, there a little, about this barren suddenly breaking forth into a joyful praise because she has a child. We just found out that the barren woman is Zion, the other mountain that nobody is being birthed into, and she's been so long without children because they're all under that old bondage. They must be birthed into the new. So meet me at the crossroads, and then we'll come over into the new. You see it, little flockulators? Do you see it? All right. Let's see. What do I want here? All right, back to Isaiah, y'all. Isaiah 66, verse 7. Before she travailed, she brought forth. Because before her pain came, she was delivered of a man child. Do you hear it, little flock? Who have heard such a thing, and who have seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as who travailed? As soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. See? I told you that's who it is, Zion. Now, what will bring forth her children? The husband will. Who is the husband? Faith. Just as in the days of Noah. What does it say about Noah? Noah became heir, inheritance, heir of the righteousness which is by faith. So then what do you think the grandson of right thought has done? Why do you think I'm called the grandson of right thought? Because I have inherited the righteousness which is by faith. And now because I have done that, then I have right to take up what belonged to me, which is my bride, because that's what Abba told me in the 40 when I was walking out and leaving. He tapped me on my shoulder and said, hey, grandson. I said, huh? He said, go redeem the bride. Okay. Okay. There ain't no other reason for me to have been sent back than to redeem the bride. Why? So she can birth her children. I told y'all that. What do you think the comforter is meant for? To comfort the woman who has had babies. The husband does that. You see it? The righteousness which is by faith. You cannot produce children with that holy mountain unless you have faith. That is the stumbling stone that you will trip over and turn into powder when you hit the ground, trying to run in without faith, like the Egyptians did. You see it? Now, before we finish this message, I'm going to give you guys a clue about that, about why those other men, because it wasn't just Pharaoh, it was also King Abimelech, tried to take that wisdom and make it one with himself as well. But he couldn't because he was faithless, and God would not allow a faithless, perverse person to touch that woman. You see it right there, little flockulators. So let's get Micah that we read the other day. Micah chapter 4. That's what we read the other day. And we're going to get a little piece of it. All right. Micah chapter 4, verse 11. Watch this, y'all. Now also many nations are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion. I told you. See, like Egypt did. We just read it. Let me get that wisdom. Let me use it. Let me see the secrets that she has. You can't unless you have faith. It's impossible to please him without faith. So then how in the hell do you think you can do anything if you don't have faith? Because anything done without it is sin. You see that, little flockulators? There isn't any other way around it. If you don't have faith, then you're in sin. You see it? All right. Go to the big book of Hebrews. All right. I believe this is chapter 11. I don't have it at the top real quick, y'all. My page is kind of cut off. But we're starting at verse 16, Hebrews. Therefore, it is of faith, see, that it might be by grace, to the end the promise, which we are the children of promise, might be sure to all the seed, not to that only which is of the law, but to that also which is of the faith of Abraham, which is the father of us all. So didn't we just read in the other place, the mother of us all, which is the Jerusalem from above, which is Zion, which is Sarah. See there? See there? The barren mountain. She's actually our mother, the ones that are born of faith, born of the Spirit. See? And our father, which is of faith of Abraham, the father of us all. As it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations before him whom watch this, before him who he believed, even El, who quickeneth the dead and calleth those things which be not as though they were. Hear that good and get that wisdom. Abraham knew a God who called things that were not as though they were. That's faith for your ass if I ever heard it. So when Abba said, you're going to have a son, he acted as though it was not. And because he acted as though it was counted unto him for righteousness. Right thinking is faith. So like I said, you guys can call me the grandson of faith. It doesn't mean anything different. Righteousness is faith. You see, that's the husbandman of Zion. See that there little flock, which makes children get birthed. You see it? Continuing. Who against hope believed in hope. See what I told you about faith? Substance of the thing hoped for. He hoped to have a child. So he believed that he might become the father of many nations according to that which was spoken. See? The word that he heard. So shall thy seed be. Watch this. And being not weak in faith, he considered not his own body, now dead, when he was about 100 years old, neither yet the deadness of Sarah's womb. So he didn't think about that when he heard the word. He considered it had already been, despite what it looked like. That's righteousness. That's faith. That's when the children will be born out of Sarah, out of the virtuous woman that will not birth a child until she has a husband who is a faithful man. That simple. That's why Yahusha said, how long shall I be with you, faithless and perverted as people? See? Your faith hath made you whole. It's like y'all don't hear that or something. Okay? And being not weak in faith, we read that, verse 20, he staggered not at the promise of El through unbelief. See, guys? So when God told him about his son, he didn't stagger at it. He didn't say, oh, no, that can't happen. No, it ain't going to happen. He didn't say that, but was strong in faith, giving glory to El. See, giving glory for what he already had, giving thanks. If you ask, believing, giving thanks, then you shall have it. Yahusha said that. Abraham did that. See? And being fully persuaded that what he had promised, he was able also to perform. If he promised it to me, then he's going to do it. It's already done. If he promised it, then he did it already. That was Abraham's attitude, you see. And therefore, it was imputed to him for what? Little flock. Righteousness. Y'all want to play with the grandson or keep getting foot swept? What do you want to do? No, it was not written for his sake alone that it was imputed to him. In other words, I'm not just telling you that Abraham became righteous because of his faith just for Abraham's sake. I'm telling it to you for what? But for us also, see, to whom it shall be imputed. If you have faith, then you will be given righteousness. What did I just tell you guys about my name? You can say grandson of faith. You can say grandson of righteousness because it means the same thing. Faith is righteousness. If you have faith, then you will be called righteous. If you're faithless, then your ass will be called perverted. Which one you want to be called? I don't want to be called perverted. So let me get my faith on. You hear me? Today, little flock. All right. To whom it shall be imputed, if we believe on him that raised up Yahusha our Lord from the dead, who was delivered for our offenses and was raised again for our justification. Do you hear it, little flock, today? Do you hear me? Okay. Now this message didn't got kind of long. We had an hour now. Like I said, it's in the wee hours of the morning. But I hope that was edifying for the body, the little flock, because I know that if you wanted to be edified, then that should have did it for you. because that was full of nuggets of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. If you got ears to hear and eyes to see it, wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say it? Because I know I sure in the hell would. Because that's what it's about. It's about being translated into a new world. And when you're translated into the new world, then the children of the flesh will fight against you. The children of the flesh are those who are in bondage to sin, who are held under Hagar's law, Sinai's law. We just read it. You see it? We just read it. But we are children of the free woman. That's simple. We got different mothers. So we were taught two different teachings. You see, my mother said, love one another. What did your mother say? Well, you were bad, so she probably told you not to do a whole lot of shit. But when my Abba made me, he said it was good. So I didn't need to hear all that other crap. I just go back to what I heard from the beginning, like the scripture said. And what did we hear in the beginning? That we love one another. Because all the commandments and all the laws can be summed up in this one saying. Love one another. Now give me some other word that all the commandment, all the law, and prophets can be summed up in. And what saying do you have? Don't say love, because I already took that one and I'm hogging that one up. You have to say something else since we disagree. Don't say love. Sum it up in something else. Can you have something that will fight what I've given you? I say thee nay. You see? But like I said, it's not the spiritual that are persecuting the flesh. It's the flesh persecuting the spiritual children, the spiritual children. See, you're not doing this right. You're not doing that. Hey, you did that on the Sabbath day. Hey, you didn't do that. Hey, you didn't do. Hey, you did. Damn, can you edge my grass with all that hit? Can you cut my grass, nigga? You should be able to. Y'all hear me today, little flock. Y'all rest up and y'all be blessed on this chilly night. Silawam Israelah.